Hi everyone, my name is Taillie. I'm a science communication assistant here with the Integration and Application Network. I'm going to be joining you for the next 2 weeks for the mapping module. We'll have some resources for you on how to use ArcMap, but for me I use a Mac, and ArcMap doesn't run too well on Macs. You actually have to run a different operating system in order to use that software. So what I generally tend to use is QGIS, which is a free open software GIS software that works pretty well on Macs and can do a lot of the same things that ArcMap can. So you can just go to the website here. I'll have a link for this in the video. It's qgis.org/en/site, and you're just going to click on Download Now. You'll go to Download for Mac OS X if you have a Mac. There's a Windows and a Linux and a BSD as well. And you just click on this link to go to King Chaos's page. So QGIS is essentially a crowdsourced software. So people all over the United States and the world contribute to the code that has developed it and make it freely available for everyone to use. So you'll just go to download here, and when you click on this, it'll go to your downloads and you'll download it to your applications, and there will be 4 different steps that you'll click on each of the .dmg files to download it, and they'll be numbered 1 through 4. So you just click on each of those and download them one at a time and install them, and then you'll have QGIS installed. So I've already done that. I'm going to skip that part here, but if you run into any trouble with installing QGIS, shoot me an email. I'll leave my email at the end of this video. So I'm just going to open QGIS here, and while it's loading, I'll just quickly go through some of the different open sources you can find GIS data on. So there are a lot of really good resources for downloading GIS data, and there's a lot of free GIS data out there. And so the U.S. Census Bureau has a lot of good data, a lot of boundaries, a lot of population data, and different census data, and they even have some more pre-analyzed data such as population density and some more sophisticated data like that. So this is Natural Earth, which is just a really big general database for Earth data. You can go over to downloads, look at large scale, medium scale, small scale data. It's pretty easily organized. If you click on medium scale physical data, you'll come up with all these different downloads. You can have oceans, rivers, lakes, playas, geographic lines. And they have cultural data too, which includes cities and whatnot. So that's a pretty good resource. I wanted to mention here, and I'll show you how to download some data from somewhere like this a little bit later on in this tutorial. But most states, even counties, have their own individual GIS portals. This is Maryland's GIS data catalog. And so a lot of these are really good for getting local data, county data, stuff like that. And you can get it at a lot higher resolutions than you will if you download it from someplace that just has general data like this. So if your work site is in one small area, I would suggest trying to find the smallest database that you can. So Maryland, or even if it's just in Dorchester County, if Dorchester County has a data portal, it could be really useful. USGS has a pretty good data portal, although a little bit hard to access. They have a lot of data on here, as well as NOAA and the National Weather Service. So now that QGIS is opened up, this is what it's going to look like when you first open the application. I'm just going to click OK here. You can see my recent projects here, and this is just sort of the general user interface. And I'm going to go up here to new. And so just really quickly, I'll go through some of the tools in here. So when you go and start a new project, you can go and look at the different project properties. So I just like to hit on a couple of points here. You can go to your general properties and give it a file name, give your project a name so that you can open your project and everything that you already worked on will be there. And then something that I'd like to touch on is the coordinate reference system. So every shapefile or GIS data that you download will have a specific coordinate reference system attached to it, and it's basically a set of coordinates that it's going to draw, or it's going to format your project off of. And so you can see up here I have enable on the fly CRS transformation checked. So that basically means if I put one layer on there that has this CRS, which is WGS 84 EPSG 4326, and then I say I download something that's more local data, such as something that has the coordinate reference system of NAD 83, which is just the south of Kentucky, and so say I'm downloading something from a county in Kentucky, and it's already attached to this coordinate reference system. If I have enable on the fly transformation checked, it's going to automatically lay those layers on top of each other so that you can see how they would look on top of each other, instead of, if they're on different reference systems, they might not quite be lined up. So that can be really useful, but you have to watch out, because if you're doing a little bit more of analysis with the data that you're downloading, such as, say you want to clip the population density of one county, so you have the population density of all of Maryland, and you want to clip the density data to just one county, you're going to need to make sure that those two layers are on the same CRS. And so in that case, you would not enable on the fly CRS transformation, and you would make sure to save those files with the same coordinate reference system, just to make sure that you won't get any errors when you're doing those analyses. So I'm just going to click cancel here. That's most of what you need to know for setting up a project. And I'm going to leave enable on the fly on, just so that everything that I put in here lines up without me having to change the coordinate reference system. So here on the left, you're going to have your add data tools. So you can add vector data, you can add raster data. So vector data is basically editable data, like shapefiles. Raster data is going to be non-editable data. The one good example of raster data is the National Land Cover data set. And then you'll get down to these spatialite, PostGIS, WMS, and WCS. So those are for larger global data sets mostly. I haven't had to use either of these. Spatialite layer is actually an add-on to QGIS that allows you to just access data that's already in the program. And then down here you'll get into your editing and creating a new shapefile layer yourself, as well as add a text delimited layer, which I'll touch on a little bit later. That's how you can add your own data to a project that you have going. And then up here, you're going to have a bunch of tools for various different functions. You can do some statistics, you can do some, this is just basic navigation for panning around your maps and zooming in and out. And then up top, you'll have your plugins, and so you can look at your different plugins that you've installed and install new plugins. And then you have your vector and raster tools, and so you can do, this is where you're going to do clipping and changing. So here's under geoprocessing is where you do clipping, and So there's some really powerful tools up there that we're not going to get too far into, but if you do have questions about some of those, please let me know. So I'm just going to add some data. So I'm going to start off by adding vector data, and I'm just going to browse to a data set that I already have downloaded on my computer. So I'm going to go into my GIS folder on my computer, and I'll go to USA States. So I already have some of this data downloaded, and I'm just going to click open on the shapefile. So all of these other files here are metadata for this shapefile, and so this won't be able to open if I don't have these other files here, but the only file that I am opening is the .shp file. So I'll open that up, and there you're going to have our United States. I'm just going to zoom in here. We're gonna make a little map about Maryland, since I think that'll be the most relevant. And so I don't really like my states being green. So down here you can change your color. I'm just gonna right click on this layer and go to properties. Once I'm in properties, I can click on simple fill, and here you have the fill, the outline, your fill style, your outline width, and so there's a lot of different things you can change here just for the appearance of each of your layers. And so what I'm actually going to do is they have some automatic colors, and so I'm going to just click on land since I want it to be land. Now I'm going to go ahead and browse to another file. So I kind of want the Chesapeake Bay to be on top of this, so you just go to GIS, and I have some different Chesapeake Bay data here, and I'm just going to add the Chesapeake Bay segments, and so that's just going to go on top. And so over here you can drag your layers on top of each other to see which one shows up on top. And so I also want to change that to a blue color. I'm just going to change it to water. Now if you zoom in here, you're going to see that I have my different segments here, and they have different outlines on them. So if I open the attribute table, you can see I have the attributes for each feature. So each segment has the area and the perimeter of the segment, and then the name of the segment. And so I want these segments to have the same outline. I essentially just don't want to see that they're different. I want it to be one body of water. So I'm going to go into properties. I'm going to go to simple fill and double click on the fill here, and I'm going to copy the HTML notation for this color, and I'm just going to change the outline to the same color. So if you just change the outline to the same color, now it looks like one cohesive bay unit. So now my advisor has asked me to highlight the county that my my sample site is in. So I'm going to go ahead and download county data. My sample site is somewhere in Maryland. So I'll just go to the Maryland GIS data catalog, click on open data, see where it takes us. And so it's going to take us over here. I can look at the different categories of data. I want boundaries, since I want the county boundaries. So I'll just scroll down and see what data sets they have here. So I have municipal boundaries, congressional districts, and so here's the Maryland political boundaries. So I'll just click on that, and it's just going to take me to a link here. I want the shapefile, so I'll go ahead and click on that to download the shapefile. And I'm going to go ahead and make it, just to keep my GIS folders organized, I'm going to say MD counties and create a new folder for it, and I'll save it in that folder just so that I can have it for reference if I want to use it for a different map that I'm making. And so I've opened that up. Now I'm just going to show you You don't have to use this tool. You can also just drag and drop a shapefile in here. So I'll go to my Maryland political boundaries shapefile and just drag it and drop it. And you can see it's overlaid on top of there. I don't want it to be on top of the Chesapeake Bay, so I'm just going to pull it down. So it should have all the counties in Maryland, but I'll just check that in the attribute table. So here you can see they each have an object ID, a county name, the district that they're in, and some other metadata that I'm not sure what it is, but I don't really need to know what it is. I just need to know that they have all the county names in here. So that's good that they have those. And so my study site, whoops, if you have a Mac, sometimes it can be pretty touchy for the zoom. And so you can always just click zoom to layer. So I'm going to click over here and do the zoom to layer for this. So right click on there and go zoom to layer. And so say my sample site is in Dorchester County and I just want to highlight Dorchester County on this map. So what I'm going to do is change all of my other county colors to the same color. So I'm going to right click and go into properties. So right now it's treating the Maryland political boundaries layer as one single symbol. I want it to treat it as a categorized symbol, and I'm going to go ahead and have it categorize it by county. So each county name will have a different color, and I'll just do random colors. You can do color ramps here, which can be pretty cool if you want to, if you're categorizing by depth here, you can change your color ramp to like blues, and then you'll get darker blues for lower depths and lighter blues for higher depths, and you can make those categories down here yourself. But right now I'm just going to do simple random colors for the different counties. Click classify. So now each county is a different color. If I close this, you'll see all my counties have changed to different colors. So I'm actually going to go in here and change all the counties that are not Dorchester County to be the same color. So I've just selected those counties by holding the shift key and clicking on them, and I'm just going to right click and go to change color. I don't really need it to be anything too specific. I'm just going to make it this kind of browny color. That seems good to me. So I'll just go in here and, oops, I don't want to do that. So I'll just go in here and figure out my color, change color. So you can copy your HTML notation here, and I'm going to make the rest of these the same color. Change color. And then I don't think I want Dorchester County to be purple. So I'll just go in here and I'll change it to a green color. So now all the counties except Dorchester County are separate colors, and you can see that in here. So now I'm going to go ahead and add my sample site. So what I've done is I've just made an imaginary sample site here. I basically just picked the sample site right outside in front of my office here on the Choptank River. It's actually kind of cool that you can do this. You can just go on Google Maps and get your latitude and longitudes, and so I've just copied those and I've put it into my Excel spreadsheet over here. I made up some different water quality parameters just for the sake of this example, and so once you have it in your Excel sheet, you're going to save it as a comma separated values, a CSV file. So go to File, Save As. So it's already there. Typically it would be saved as an Excel workbook. One thing to note, which I ran into, and it was a problem for a couple of hours until I figured out what was going on, is when you save it as comma separated values, just regular, QGIS doesn't like that format for some reason, so you have to save it as Windows comma separated. I don't know what the deal with that is. It's just something funky. So go ahead and save that wherever you want it to be. I already have it saved there. I'll just replace it. Hit continue. I'm going to switch over to QGIS here, and we're going to add our sample site using the Add Text Delimited Layer button. And so I'm just going to browse to my CSV file. Here it is, Dylan's study site. So it's a CSV file, and I'll just click open. And so you can see my parameters have just shown up here, and I want to add it as a CSV file format, and then my geometry will be how I want it to add to our current project. And so I'm going to use point coordinates. You can also use degrees, minutes, seconds coordinates, but mine are in latitude, longitude, degrees, so I'll just keep it as point coordinates. So X field, I want this to be my longitude, and then our Y field, I want this to be our latitude, and I'm just going to click OK and add this site. So the CRS was undefined, so it just added my site using the current CRS that the project is. And so right now you can't see my study site because it's below Chesapeake Bay, but I'm just going to pull it on top. There it is. So we can zoom into that little guy. So this is where I am right now, and you can see my study site and Dorchester County. Whoops, I'm just going to right click zoom to layer here, and then Talbot County over here. And so I want to add a label to my study site here, so I'm just going to go to right click properties and labels. So right now this layer has no labels. I'm going to go to show labels for this layer, and then I'm going to go ahead and go to label with site. So I'll add my site name, and then you can choose the position of your label. I'm going to go to a round point, and I'm going to say just about 0.3 off of the point, and I'm going to click OK. So you have my site name there now, so that's nice. And then if you have a bunch of sites in the chop tank, you could add those all in the same layer, and it'll be easy to show people, where your study site is. You can add, your cities that are close by here, or your different boundaries, or your just different landmarks to orient your audience. And so this is just a basic map that you can, I put that together in 15 minutes or so. Now, I find that QGIS isn't super powerful for making a very pretty map. So I would recommend that you export your map and do a lot of your actual formatting and design in Adobe Illustrator. And so one thing that QGIS has that's pretty cool is it allows you to export it as an SVG file, and then you can open it up, your map, in Illustrator and make edits to it. So I'm just going to show you how to do that really quick. So I'm going to create a new print composer, and I'm going to title this Dylan's site. So now we have our print composer here. Our print composer is separate from our map viewer, so right now we have two separate windows in QGIS. What I'm going to do is, I think this is maybe a little bit too zoomed in, so I'm going to go back to my map viewer and just zoom out just a little bit. There we go. So you can see most of the Choptank River, and you can sort of see where Delaware starts over there. And so now I'm going to go ahead and go back to our print composer. which is right here. And I'm just going to go ahead and go to add new map. And so I'll just draw my map here, and it's going to show up on my print composer. So you can then add a couple of things that I would suggest adding here rather than in Illustrator. Definitely add a scale bar, because you won't be able to get a scale bar after that if you don't do it. Sorry about that. Just go to here. So add a scale bar. You're just going to click this scale bar tool here and then click on your actual map. And so I've added a scale bar. You can go over here to item properties and change the style of your scale bar. I don't really like the style that it is right now. So I'm going to add line ticks down, and then I think it's too many units, so I'm going to delete some segments here. And then I'm just going to move it so it's more out in the water. And so then you just have 0 to 20 kilometers. Sometimes people like to have two different scale bars, one in kilometers and one in miles. So I'll add another one, change it to line ticks down. I'll delete the segments, and I'm going to change it to feet. So there's 0 to 10 miles there. And just to have them sort of even up, I'll go ahead and delete two segments here, just so we have 10 miles and 10 kilometers. So it's sort of comparable there. Then I'm going to go ahead and, it's not really necessary for the quick map that I've made here, but I'm going to add a legend. So that's something that's kind of annoying, is that it has all of my different counties on here, and I don't want all of my different counties. So you can go into your item properties and just click on, scroll down a little bit, and you'll see your different items in here. So Maryland political boundaries, and so I just want to delete these out of here, so I'm just going to select them, click off auto update, and then I'll select them and delete them out of there, so I have a little bit cleaner of a map. Or actually, I'd like to leave one, just so that I have one. So let's leave one on there. And so that's just a simple little map that I've made. Next, I'm just going to go to export as SVG. It's just going to say that there's a couple of bugs with exporting as SVG. I'm going to close that, and I'll just figure out where I want to export it. I'm just going to put it on my desktop and say Dylan's site zoomed in SVG. So I can save it. You can choose here some different options for the export. I don't like to render map labels as outlines. I like to render them as actual text, so that when you put it in Illustrator, it'll come up as text instead of outlines. And then I usually click the export map layers as SVG groups, so each layer is grouped together. And you just click save. And you might want to orient your audience a little bit better, so you can delete this map and create a quick reference map. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back over here, and I'm going to zoom out. And so you can sort of get the idea of the scale just by zooming out a little bit. I don't really need it to be that zoomed out. As long as I get, the Atlantic Ocean and some of the Great Lakes up here, I think I'm happy with my locator map. I think people can figure out where it is. So then I'll just switch back over to my composer view and draw this map. And then you have a good little locator map, and you can add some scale bars to that as well, and have the same process of exporting it as an SVG. So I just went through sort of a quick tutorial of a lot of the different tools or just a few of the different tools in QGIS. And so I barely even scratched the top of what you can do with QGIS, but I hope you guys can use this tool to create, nice clean maps for your sample sites, or whatever you may be doing your research on. So I think Caroline has done a tutorial of how to clean up a map once it's in Adobe Illustrator. So hopefully that's a good follow-up to my tutorial here and to Kiri's tutorial. And will give you a pretty good basis for creating maps in both ArcMap and in QGIS. So please let me know if you have any questions. I'm going to leave a lot of the links to some of the different free GIS portals. I'll leave those in the description to this video. And if you have any questions, don't hesitate to email me. I'll also have my email in the description of this video. So thank you so much for your time, and I look forward to seeing you all in class.